right, so we are here for the very first episode of our podcast series. So I'm Regina. I own Loam Nova Media. I do marketing, all sorts of marketing, and I want to dive into how she does it. And not only how she does it, but why she does it. So, Rebecca, tell me a little bit about what you do at Loam Nova. What is Loam Nova and what's your specialty?
Okay, love that. So thank you for that beautiful introduction, first of all. You inspire me as well.
Oh, stop it.
So the name kind of helps tell the story of what we do. So Loam and Nova. Loam is another word for soil, for earth, and Nova is of the sky and stars. And so the story is helping you create a strong foundation so that you can reach the stars. What we do is create those strong foundations through operations. So systems, processes, helping a business be organized, creating those pathways so that you can grow and you can accommodate that growth. A lot of times businesses grow too quickly. And then they don't have the infrastructure. They hit the gas. They invest all this money, maybe in marketing. But then once all that business comes in, they don't have the infrastructure to hold it, and it can create chaos. And it also can create bad morale for the team, and it's not financially feasible as well, right? They're throwing money away if they can't hold that growth, and it can have really intense impacts for years to come with their reputation and all of that. So it's like, how can we set you up for success so that you can accommodate that growth, and that everything you're doing on the front end is like with your sales and your marketing is, you can deliver on that.
Wow. And that's something that I don't think a lot of businesses think about when they're starting out, especially like a solopreneur. You kind of just want to grow, get new clients. But then one time I was talking to you, we were meeting, and you said something along the lines of, what would you do if you just got like 5 new clients? Like, do you have the means to onboard them?
Yeah.
And I was like, whoa, like that's so true. I'm spending all this time marketing myself and going to like these networking events and doing this and that. But like, if I actually got the business, I need to make sure that I can deliver and sustain it. So what made you realize that businesses were lacking in that? Is this because you worked at a company that maybe was a little bit disorganized and then it clicked? Or what made you realize that you could help with that?
I think it's definitely been years of working with companies that hit that crucial point and then realizing that it's so chaotic and people are quitting. And one of my areas of expertise is the team. So making sure the team has the systems to be successful, that the communication is there, that they feel supported, that they can do their best work. And when you bring on all of that growth, the team feels it, and if they're going to be at capacity, it leads to burnout. And so I think it was just being a part of that team and feeling that, and then also witnessing it as well. So even in my own businesses, when I had my yoga studio, that was something that I experienced, was the growth, and then having the chaos that ensued after that because I didn't have enough teachers. And so I was then filling in for all of the classes. And that, again, it just like led to burnout. It led to I wasn't showing up as my best self. So sometimes people would get the best version of Rebecca who was happy to be there. And sometimes, when I had to fill in for all those, 6 a.m. classes and 6 p.m. classes and on the same day, it was just, they weren't getting my best self. And I think that definitely impacted the business. And then just, you're also so much at capacity. I wasn't really able to even hire the people that I wanted to hire. It was like, just get the people into the business. Mm-hmm. So it just felt chaotic. It didn't feel intentional and mindful. And like, I wanted to be able to show up as the best version of myself for my business. And I just wasn't able to do that because I hadn't prepared for it. I think there's also something like mindset wise with business owners where sometimes, they don't believe it until they see it with the success. It's almost like there's this mindset of like, you have to believe that the success is coming. Mm-hmm. And so once you embrace that mindset of like, oh no, it's just around the corner, then it's like, okay, now what do we need to do to make sure we're ready for that? But it's almost like they're not there yet. They almost don't believe it yet until the growth starts to come in. It's like, well, I'm going to do all this stuff, but I'm like almost not even expecting that it's going to work.
Right. Like it might work, but
right.
like what are the odds?
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Instead of like that mindset of like, oh no, this is going to work and we're going to be onboarding 10 new clients next month. So what do we do to prepare for that?
Do you feel like, and I'm just not following the questions yet because I want to just pick your brain a little more, but do you feel like that's something that is important, is mindset as a business owner? Or do you think it's more important to be hardworking and deliver as opposed to going within? Or how do you feel about that?
This is a great question. I definitely think that it's a combination. I think that the mindset is a huge piece of that, and just like being decisive about what you want, and then the mindset around that. But I think it's non-negotiable as an entrepreneur. You have to have a success mindset. You have to have a growth mindset, or else you just won't survive. As somebody who's been in 10 plus years of entrepreneurship, it will beat you down. It's like you have to have that tough skin. You have to have that mindset of, and also that hard work, right? Because that's what's going to fuel it. It's like, I'm going to decide that this is going to work. I'm going to have the mindset. I'm going to, have the success principles of perseverance, and going to continue to show up even when it's crickets, or even when it's no after no after no. It's and then also with the growth mindset, you're not taking things personally, which is really hard to do as a business owner, because usually the business is an extension of ourselves. It comes out of something in us that we wanted to birth into the world. And so it can be very difficult not to take things personally when it comes to the business. But when you have the growth mindset, you start to reframe it of, this is not something that is a critique. It's something that is giving me feedback for future success. So it is, yes, technically it's a critique, or it's, criticism or feedback, but instead of being defensive about that, you're looking at it like, how can I improve, or what can I do with this data, and how can I make a decision if I want it? Like, it's going through a filter, because everybody's going to have an opinion, but you have a filter to say, is this something that I want to integrate and make decisions and improve my business in this way, because people are giving me the feedback. And I always like to say, if it's a one-off, it's a one-off. Like if one person is going to tell you something, it's a one-off. But if you start to hear it more than once, then you need to pay attention.
Yeah. That's really good advice. Okay, so now going into how you started Loam Nova, and basically what kind of drives you to help CEOs, because, or just people that are solopreneurs, sometimes you feel kind of alone in it, and you, especially when you first start, like you're doing your own marketing, your own accounting, your own everything. So setting up systems is something that most people don't even think about. So let's talk about, number one, what are systems for those who maybe are watching and are thinking about starting a business, and they hear the word systems here and there, but like, what is a system?
Yeah. So I like to describe a system as a series of activities that you do on a repeated basis that lead to the same result. A lot of times I think people often think software and systems are synonymous. Systems are a tool, usually within your systems, but they are typically not the system itself.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So like, is an SOP a standard operating procedure?
Good job.
Is that a system?
Yes.
Okay. So what systems would you recommend someone that's just starting their business? So say they decided to open it up. What's the first systems that they should set up?
So definitely looking at the client journey. So I always start with mapping out the client journey from awareness. So from the moment that they hear about you, are aware of your brand, to offboarding and continued nurture after that. So we map out that point, and then what specifically does the business need at each of those junctures. So it might be something around, how are you consistently bringing awareness to your brand? So that's going to be different for every single business. So it'll be dependent on, are you running ads? Are you networking? How do you have referrals? But whatever your process is, whatever activities you're doing to bring awareness, you want to create those checklists, those protocols, how you're measuring it. And so it's consistent. So some sort of system around awareness, that could look like setting up a referral system. That could look like, joining a BNI group. But then it's also not just that one activity. it's also the nuances around that. So it's like, I'm going to go into this. I have my business card. I then get business cards. I add everybody who I, learned about into my client, relationship manager or my project manager. And then I have them on my radar where I'm going to invite them to things. I'm going to support them. Some people might be referrals. Some people might be potential clients. So there's a whole, do you see how it's like there's a whole different activities around that to create repeated results.
Right.
Yeah.
And you mentioned a CRM. So can you expand on CRMs and why someone that's starting a business or someone that already has a business established and maybe doesn't have a CRM, why should they start one? And let's start with, what is it?
Yeah, so CRM stands for Client Relationship Manager. Most of them have different types of features, but it's a way to manage your relationships. So it is a way for you to keep track of all the people that you're talking to, because most of the time we have way bigger networks than we realize. And how many times have you gone to a networking event, you talk to people, but then, you don't remember who they are or what they do or how they might help you or how you could help them. And so the client relationship manager catches all of that. And then also with managing your current clients, where are they in the journey? Are they, and capturing all of their contact info. And so it's like there's leads, there's customers, and then there's this word called segmentation. And so it helps you separate who you are talking to and what type of messages you're sending to them. So what you're going to be sending to your current clients is going to be different than what you're sending to your prospects or your referral partners. And then same thing as once you've offboarded your clients, or they're no longer customers, then where do they go after that? There's maybe some messaging you want to send them, holiday messages or periodic messages quarterly, but you want to keep them in your ecosystem to continue to support them.
Gotcha. Cool. Yeah. I think it's really important for everyone to have a CRM.
Definitely.
And I've met so many businesses throughout, I think like this year, where they're large and they're scaling really, really fast, but they just can't keep up with the CRM. So that's important, people. Okay, so let's get into what drives you. So I wanted to just ask about why you want to help CEOs build businesses that support their lives. So what is the why behind what you do?
Well, I think a huge part of it is a story that I don't share very often, but I'm the daughter of an entrepreneur. And a lot of my motivation comes from my childhood and just watching my dad build his business and seeing, the challenges. And this was like, pre-internet, building, he's been an entrepreneur for 40 plus years, and just seeing how difficult it is when you don't have the support around you, how difficult it is when you don't have the operations and the systems, and also the revenue kind of dipping up and down when you also don't have the systems like that, consistent way that you're bringing clients into your business. Because like with him, and he had a lot of other things. He went through multiple recessions, and so there was just lots of different aspects that led into that. But it was just really my motivation of I want everybody to have less. I want all business owners to have less stress around running a business. I want them to have a life. I want them to feel that they can grow their business without giving up their life. And one of the things that my dad always says is he's like, you bring the peace. And so that's just my mission, is just to bring the peace to these business owners, because there's a lot of weight on their shoulders. It can impact your mental health, your quality of life when you have a business that is just chaotic. And
it's running you not running the business.
Correct. Exactly. So yeah, I feel like that's definitely like a huge part of that motivation.
That's beautiful. And was there, so you kind of already touched on this, a specific moment or experience that made you realize that this was what you wanted to go into? But besides seeing your dad's company and seeing the struggles around not having proper implementations, is there anything else that you noticed maybe when you started that made you say, this is why I want to do this?
I think, it wasn't really an aha necessarily. It was more people reflecting back to me. So I'm always really grateful, and I always try to do that with other people, because sometimes you just don't see yourself. It's hard for you to see your own gifts or see what you're good at. And so, if you're listening, always tell that person, oh, this is what you're great at, because that can help change somebody's life. And that's what it was for me. I was working with somebody in their company as a contractor. I was helping them with like executive assistant type work, but then also I was contracted as a coach, as a life coach, and then I was helping them out with some of their executive assistant operations. And she was just like, one day she was just like, Rebecca, like operations is your gift. Like you really are great at running the business and keeping things organized and helping me grow. And she's like, I want to support you in that. And so she really fueled that in me. And I didn't actually at that point, like I didn't know what a system was. I didn't know what operations was. But I felt something ignite inside of me. And then that's when I started to really deep dive and just like learn all the things and go back to school. And I was like, this is it. This is the thing.
Well, go her.
Yeah, I'm grateful for her to this day because I may never have found this path, if it wasn't for her.
You may have never realized that you're gifted in that sense.
Yeah.
So like you said, if somebody's listening and you know someone that's really good at something, tell them. Sometimes you just need a little bit of a boost. Mm-hmm. So what does it mean to have a business that supports your life? What does that mean to you?
To me, that means that the business can run without you being involved, or you being involved very little. Like my goal is to always get my CEOs to be working like 4 or 5 hours a month. If they want to work more than that, then like obviously they're welcome to, right? It's like, I'm not saying that you can't, but that's my goal. So having something that you can go on vacation, that you can go and swim in the ocean on Tuesday mornings, or spend more time with your kids, be more of a stay-at-home parent if that's what you want. Whatever it is that is the life that you want to design outside of the business, that is supported by the business, not your life supporting the business.
Right.
Like your hours that you're grinding or your sweat equity. It's like that's not what's fueling the business. It's the opposite.
And so kind of backtracking a little bit. So when you started Loam Nova, you were helping businesses, sort of small to mid-sized businesses, to scale and then help them gain more freedom.
Yep.
Now you're working with like $1 million businesses plus. So how has that journey been for you?
How has that journey been for me? Eventful. I love the businesses that I work with. I have businesses that are making, $175,000 a year, and then I have businesses that are, making, $4 or $5 million a year. And they all have kind of these universal truths about them. And so I think that's one thing that I've learned is I was always really intimidated by the bigger businesses. And then once I got into them, I was like, oh, like you're struggling with the same exact things that my other, business owner who's making half that much is struggling with. So it was really cool to kind of see that no matter what stage of the business you're in, there's going to be kind of these threads that bind you together in a sense. So I would say that it was eventful and I learned a lot along the way.
Yeah. And I think that you said something really interesting. As someone that's making like 100 to 200,000 with their business, and someone that's making 4 to 5 mil plus, they can still have the same issues because they don't have the systems in place needed.
Yep.
So I know helping them out probably looks a little bit different, but at the end of the day, they'll benefit from the same structure. So
exactly.
No matter what journey in your business building you're in, you'll benefit from the same support.
Yeah.
And can you talk about something that you think and you've seen in your career that CEOs misunderstand about scaling their business?
That they misunderstand about scaling their business?
Yeah, so what do you think most CEOs misunderstand about scaling?
I think just understanding what scaling is. I think a lot of times people think scaling is synonymous with growth, and I think that it's a type of growth. But scaling is more of an art and a science. You can grow without systems. You cannot scale without systems. And I think that's...
Wait, say that one more time. Say it one more time.
You can grow without systems, but you can't scale without systems.
Okay.
Because scaling is a system for growth. So they're just two different things. Okay. And so I think a lot of companies, they grow and then they realize, like, I'm working all the time. I can't step away from the business. I don't have maybe the right people in the right seats. Like, I don't have the right team in place to get me to that next level. And like most companies that I work with, once they hire me, they're on the verge of closing their business. And they are successful, like they're growing, but they want to scale. They don't know that they want to scale. I think that's like one thing too, they don't really even know that they want to scale, but that's what they want. So scaling is working less and making more.
I thought about myself when you said that, because when I have a small business, and when I started it, I was growing, but I was doing a lot more work because I was executing the deliverables. But then when I started scaling is when I started contracting help to help me. So that's a small example, but I'm assuming that's what it looks like to scale.
Definitely.
Delegating and just being smart about it.
Yeah.
By hiring someone like you. So, so in your experience, what are some of the biggest signs that a business who has started running the CEO instead of the other way around? So what are some signs that the business is running you instead of the other way?
Yeah, I think the biggest one is that you don't feel that you can step away without your revenue going down or the business being able to run smoothly without you. I think that's a really big indicator.
I see. And I think that kind of goes back to what you said about having SOPs and systems in place so that if you had to step back, your employees or your contractors can still execute and still deliver, right?
Yep, exactly.
And so you talk a lot about, in your whole philosophy of business, about building smarter, not harder. Mm-hmm. That is like your tagline. So what does that look like in practice?
Well, in practice, one of the things that you said was, SOPs, so everybody knows how to execute without you 100%. But it's also about finding the smartest way to do a process. So an example of this could be, one person is onboarding new clients one way, they are doing the most outstanding job, clients are happy. Let's call her Sarah. And then you have Mike, and Mike isn't really that great. He's like not really good at relationships. He misses certain things, and the clients don't have the best experience with him. So it's also about, we don't want to create an SOP around how Mike does things, right? We want to create an SOP around how Sarah does things. Mm-hmm. So it's also about collaborating as a team and figuring out what is the smartest way to do the process. What's the most effective way? What's the most efficient way? What's the most, the way that's going to have an impact on our revenue, on our growth? So it's like really looking at it from all these different angles as a team and collaborating and figuring out what is that's what the smartest, what is the smartest way to do this, and then implementing it. But also work smarter, not harder is create ways that are going to help you reduce your effort so that you don't have to work harder. You can create easier ways of doing things so that you don't have to work harder. And that is, it's I'm trying to use things without saying systems or processes and try to give specific examples because, that is exactly what a system is. It's a way to work smarter, not harder. An example of this is one of my clients, they have an issue with their phone and in their office, and it notoriously just randomly goes out and the phone stops ringing, and obviously that's super detrimental to business. And every single time they were having to figure out, because it happens periodically, so they're having to figure out, okay, wait, what did we do last time? So it took them an hour to research it and figure it out, because they would start from scratch every single time. And then what we did is we created a 5-point checklist that was okay, you do, when this happens, you check these 3 things, and then 5 minutes the phones were back up and running. So that's another way, of working hard. It's an example of working harder, not smarter, or working smarter, not harder.
Yes. Tongue twisters. Okay. So now let's get into you shared an example from a client, but I want to talk more about examples from CEOs who went from chaos to making changes to their operations or mindset. So what are some of those examples where you worked with a CEO who went from just a chaotic environment, and then after some clarity, they started making changes to the way that they worked?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think a big one is what you said about the mindset and the shifting from I'm the one who does it all to I'm willing to step into more of that CEO role, which is leading the company. And leaders delegate. And so there is this sense of pride, which I completely empathize with and understand, of doing it all, of like, I am
The best.
I am the best, right? Like, I am the best person in my company, and everything has to be, done my way, and I have to have the input. And there is that fear too of something going out the door that is maybe not up to your standard because you've delegated it to somebody else. So I think once you have the mindset shift of, I'm no longer the one who does it all, and shifting into the person who is, how can I lead the company in a way that I am able to delegate and relinquish the control in a controlled way, because you want to have, you still want to have hands on the reins. You still want to be able to have your hand in looking at things and making sure that they're, up to that level of excellence, but you can't be the one who does it all.
Right.
And I think that's, huge.
So I think that actually brings up a good point in hiring also, because you don't want to just hire someone who can execute. You almost want to hire someone that's like better than you, right?
Exactly.
Like when I hired my marketing assistant, she's better than me. Like, she's better at design than I am. She's more detail oriented, because like I'm a little bit like scatterbrained, and she's very like, you're like, you don't say.
No, I would never describe you like that, ever.
But she's just like, she's very detail oriented. And even if like I don't give clear directions, she will clarify. She'll ask me the questions so I can clarify for her to execute perfectly. So I think that, can you talk about that? Like, how can CEOs let go of their ego and hire someone that's better than them or smarter than them? Because there's always going to be someone that's willing to work with you, but also deliver the results that you're looking for in a way that is going to benefit your company and is going to make you look good. So just, can you talk about like the hiring piece of it?
Yeah. So the hiring piece, I think, is really important. So really, it starts with that mindset shift of, I'm now the business owner, I'm leading the company, and it's now, I'm removing myself from being the one who does it all. And then you start to think about, okay, well, if I'm not doing it, then who's doing it? And so then you start to look at, who's the right next hire. And then having a lot of what I do actually is around setting up those systems. So when you bring somebody in, you're setting them up for success. I think the worst thing that you can do as a business owner, or one of the worst things that you can do, is bring somebody in when you have nothing, and then put really high expectations on them to perform at their best. You're just not setting them up for success. So really making sure that you have documents in place so that they understand the business. They understand where to get the tools that they need, how you're using the tools that you're using, Also really defining what success looks like in that role. So creating a scorecard of like, what are the things what are the expectations, and getting really clear on that. I think CEOs are notorious for thinking people can read their mind. Business owners, thinking that, people can read their mind, and we can't. And so making sure that whatever is in your head is, put down on paper, and that you're communicating with your team. And whether it's you're the one, as the business owner, sometimes you're not the one that's hiring. Usually you have a few people in place that are doing the hiring for you. And then sometimes you will, meet the person and have like the last final say. That's usually how it works with a lot of my clients. But yeah, just having those systems set up for success. And then knowing who the right person is, like a hiring persona, like who's the right person for this position. And I love what you said about hiring somebody that's better than you.
Yeah.
Because that's exactly like, I was like, okay, what are the things that I don't want to do? And I started hiring for those things first.
Yeah. Or the things that take up the most time that someone has the skills to do. Mm-hmm. So, okay, shifting a little bit, but what tends to surprise CEOs the most once they start building better systems? So once the magic starts happening, what sort of shifts do you notice in the way that they operate?
I mean, definitely that piece. Like, they just start to, like, the weight starts to get lifted off of their shoulders, because they know that, that's the beauty of the system. It's consistently working in the background. I call it the engine of the company. It's mechanics. It's like everything's just working together smoothly. There's no kinks and no bottlenecks. Obviously we're always refining things, but for the most part, it's like, that everything's working in harmony. So just that, knowing that that's happening, knowing that it's out of your head. Like, I think like just
peace of mind.
Yeah, like the invisible stress of holding everything in your head is such a weight that we don't even realize. So having a strategic partner in the business where you're like, I just know that I just have to hold the vision and lead the company. And like if you're working with me as your fractional COO or the company with setting up systems, like that it's just you have somebody that's on your team that's making sure that things are happening smoothly and the day-to-day is just managed. So you no longer have to be in the weeds of the day-to-day. And that just is, I think that weight lifted.
Yeah.
It's a big one.
Beautifully said. Okay, now let's get a little bit more on the personal side before we wrap up this episode.
Okay.
So you work closely with CEOs and you have been for a long time.
Yeah.
What have you learned about leadership in watching them up close? What makes a good leader? What makes a bad leader?
Oh, this is tough. I think that a good leader knows what they're good at and has no ego around what they're not good at. They're willing to look at the area, like they're willing to get support in the areas that they're not good at, and they have no problem with that. So, I mean, I think that's a big one. Like, I'm just thinking of one of my clients. He's amazing, and he knows, like, this is what I'm horrible at, and this is why I need you. And we make a great team because of that. Like, and I know what I'm not good at. And so like we really support each other in that way. And so somebody too who I think is very collaborative with their team, they're willing to make decisions. They can be decisive about where they're going, but they do want it to be collaborative with their team. So instead of being a dictator, they're listening to their team, they're taking insight, they care about the company. Yeah, there's a post that I did on Instagram recently about like your leadership style. And I think that's a really great resource for learning like what type of leader you are. But I definitely think one that is I consider myself like a coaching / servant leader is kind of, and I think a great leader too can adjust their leadership style based on who they're working with. So it's like who they're talking to on the team. Some team members might need more of a firmer, decisive, strong leader, whereas some of them are going to respond better to more of a collaborative or a coaching approach. Yeah.
Beautiful. And you said something that stuck with me. You said you don't want someone dictating and micromanaging.
Yes.
And that reminds me this book that I was reading recently, and it's, I forget the name of it. It's something about a ship or a boat. Do you know which one I'm talking? It's about leadership, but it's the whole premise of the book is to shift your leadership style from leader to follower to leader to leader. You want to lead people in a way that they feel like leaders.
Exactly.
And they can make autonomous decisions and they can think creatively and execute on their own while you give the vision instead of giving specific tasks, right?
Exactly.
Is that something that you notice that helps leaders to better lead their company is when they go from dictating and micromanaging to giving more creative freedom?
I would say, to be honest with you, it's rare that actually happens. You know,
I can
if
imagine.
you have somebody that's the way that they lead, they're micromanaging, they're dictating, it's very rare for them to just switch over all of a sudden and then become this empowering leader. So I would say that I haven't had a lot of experience seeing that transformation because I think it's more rare than people think. But I will say that when I come on, I have experienced where they are micromanaging and we work through, okay, why are you feeling this way? What is it? You know, what systems do we need to put in place so that you can feel that they can be more autonomous? Like, is it a decision tree? A decision tree is a really common one that we'll create of like, if this happens, then you do this, or, you know, and then you talk through that with the team. And so they start to loosen, you know, the reins, and then they are no longer micromanaging.
Right.
So that does, I have seen that happen. Yeah.
That's a great example. And that's something that you helped me with actually, because remember I was kind of hitting a wall with me creating these weekly checklists for my team to execute. And I'm like, oh, well, I'm literally like leading and doing all of the creative work because I'm kind of just telling them what to make.
Yeah.
Whereas when I worked through this with you, you recommended that I give a vision instead of the actual nitty gritty.
Yeah.
And that has really, really helped me to help them.
Yes.
So now I'm like, let's preach it.
Yes. And it's not about like, that's one thing too is, so like I was working with one client and, you know, he had a really specific way that he liked graphics to be done. And, you know, we created the brand guidelines and whatnot. And one of his team members created a graphic and it was beautiful. It hit the brief. It followed the brand guidelines, but it wasn't like exactly the way this guy would have done it. Mm-hmm. And so then he was, you know, giving him all this feedback. And I was like, you know, part of it is also like realizing that you have to give people some freedom. Like as long as he's within the scope and it's hitting, like that's going to be an impediment to your growth if you have to come in every single time and give him this specific feedback, especially when it's just really superfluous is the word that's coming to mind.
Okay, fancy.
It's just, I don't want to say it doesn't matter, but it's like at the end of the day, is this graphic
supporting
you coming in and doing that? Is that the best use of your time?
I see.
As the CEO or as the owner, because I don't think he would call himself a CEO, but he was, you know, the owner of the company.
I see.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay, back to sort of tying into that creative piece. Mm-hmm. So, and also just getting to know you better. What do you do outside of work that keeps you grounded and creative?
Movement is a big part of
Pilates.
Yeah, Pilates.
We love Pilates. We're Pilates princesses.
We're Pilates. Trumbull, if you want to support us, sponsor this podcast. We'll take some extra classes.
Or if you want to be in it.
Yeah, exactly. I love Trumbull, love Pilates. I really love yoga. Yoga is, so I've been practicing yoga since I was 15, and it's just been my tried and true companion my entire life. And it's just a huge part of my practice as a human at this point.
Well, you owned a yoga studio, right?
Yep, and I owned the studio. So it's just like a big part of who I am and my story, and it keeps me grounded. So practicing yoga, like the actual movement of yoga, but then also like the spirituality of it as well. Spending time with my dogs, that, you know, really helps keep me grounded. But then also my friends, obviously. That is a game changer of just like having, you know, your good group of friends that you're doing things outside of work that's fun, kind of let your hair down.
Go totally crazy.
Go totally crazy.
Forget I'm loaded.
Karaoke. Yeah,
As you can tell.
Yeah. Just have some fun.
Yeah.
I think those are all the things that keep me really grounded.
I love it.
Yeah.
It's beautiful. Mm-hmm. Okay, and then to finish off on the personal side, how do you define balance, or how do you find balance between ambition, because you're a highly, highly ambitious person, and also well-being? So how do you keep yourself from burning out?
Okay.
I guess the creative piece and your yoga and spending time with friends all goes into it, but more on like the mindset side of things.
Okay. I feel like we could do a whole episode
I
on
know,
this.
And actually we might. So let's give a little sneak peek.
I think we should,
teaser.
because I would say a lot of my clients say that they like want more stuff around like nervous system and how anti-burnout and things like that. So we can definitely talk more about it. So, you know, your question was like, how do I define balance, and like
between ambition and
well-being? Yeah. So first of all, to me, balance, it's taking what you need. It's like tuning into yourself and taking what you need to feel balanced. So sometimes, and like to find balance. And it's like sometimes that means rest. Sometimes that's going to mean more fire. Sometimes, you know, it's going to mean a lot of different things depending on what you're feeling. Mm-hmm. So I think for me, it's like a constant recalibration where I'm like constantly tuning in to be like,
how am I feeling?
Yeah, how am I feeling? What do I need? Or like if I'm like, okay, I've been pushing really, really, really hard. Like tomorrow, like you're like, do you want to go to Apple Hill tomorrow? And
you're like straight, nope.
It's like, nope, I'm going to blanket burrito and relax because I have a huge week next week. So I'm like, you know, I just know that like as much as my spirit is like, I want to go and have fun. Of course I want to do that. But I'm also like, I know that if I keep doing those things and not taking the rest that I need, I will burn out. And I've been through burnout before, so I think that's also helped to like understand what the flags are and how to avoid that. But ambition and well-being, I think it is just, first of all, so I follow To Be Magnetic, Lacey Phillips, and she has this manifestation practice that I also do that helps me stay grounded. But part of that is finding out your authentic code. And so your authentic code is it's essentially the way that you live your life according to, you know, if you're in your authenticity. And so a huge part, it's 4 parts. And there's two parts of mine that are really focused. One's around pleasure and leisure, and one of them is around well-being and wellness. And so for me, if I'm being in my authenticity, I am always, bringing well-being into my life. So it's part of just my like personal ethos, I think. Like wellness is, and like with the yoga studio is just how I am. But because I have been through that burnout, a promise that I made to myself was I will never choose ambition over well-being.
Ooh, that gave me chills.
Yeah.
That speaks to me.
Mm-hmm. But I will also always make sure that my well-being fuels my ambition. So it's like it's not that I ever have to choose that I'm not going to be ambitious, but it's just like, how is that engine? And I think just because I'm a systems person, like I have a membership at the spa that I go to every month. Like I just have these systems in place.
Not only in work, but in your personal life.
Absolutely. That really support my ambition. And I also have a caveat to say that I have an amazing husband.
Aww.
Who is...
Shout out Kevin.
Shout out to Kevin. Kevin from heaven. Who is extremely supportive.
Aww.
I don't think that I could have the freedom to live my life the way I do if I didn't have a supportive partner.
Wow.
Yeah. Like Kevin's always like, work comes first. Like whatever you need. You want me to draw you a bath? Like, he's just like, or like, hey, you need to like, let's, we use Mother of Macros. Also, we're sponsoring all sorts of people.
I know. Episode. You're welcome.
You're welcome. Mother of Macros has been a huge game changer of like, just like little things that make my life easier that I'm like, I'm not going to like force myself to cook all the time or like, I don't know. It's just like the cheat codes, like finding the cheat codes.
Yeah. Finding the cheat codes. Well, let's definitely save more of that for another episode on just like well-being and how it ties back to owning a business and being a leader. And okay, so wrapping up this episode, what's the best place for people to start if they want to work with you and learn more about your approach?
Just get on a call. Let's have a conversation. Like I'm here to be a resource to the community. My mission is just to help entrepreneurs and help business owners. So just let's hop on a conversation. There's no pressure. I'm going to ask you really powerful questions about what's going on in your business. You will walk away with a lot of insight.
So people that want to work with you, best way to do it is on your website or...
Okay, so like specifically, we'll link a link to a discovery call in the description. But on the website, you can definitely book a call. Cool. My calendar's right embedded in the website, so it's super easy. I just want to have lots of conversations with people, and then you can decide if it's the right fit.
Cool. Well, that does it for this one. Thank you, everyone, for listening. We hope that you learned a thing or two. And Rebecca's just very knowledgeable about all things business and systems and operations. So we're really excited to make this a series. And if anyone has questions specifically for Rebecca, comment them. And she is super responsive, so she will definitely get to you. Thank you for watching.